Rosh Hashanah. It's the time of beginnings. Rosh Hashanah commemorates the season. And as we look towards this year, it is traditional to remember the creation of the world. Now, we call this feast Rosh Hashanah. Rosh, of course, means the head. But as in the head of the year. That's why we say the beginning, the start. But it also is a Reshit. And Reshit also is the beginning, just as we read the very first words in the Torah, Bereshit, in the beginning. In the beginning, Hashem made the heavens and the earth, and night and day, and dry ground, and the waters, and all the vegetation and lights in the sky, and all the animals. And you know what? After he looked at that, and he was pleased. He was pleased. In Genesis 1:21, we read that he called what he made Tov, good. Everything was exactly the way that he intended for it to be. The creation was not yet complete. Yet the Almighty looked at what was already there, and he was pleased. Even with that progress, he was happy. He said, Tov, this is good. Even in its incomplete state, the creation was exactly what Hashem has purposed it to be so far. So, I have a question for you. Have you ever painted a fresh coat of paint on something, maybe a wall or something like that, or a piece of furniture? And this is the first coat of paint. It may not look perfect, it may not look complete, but you have this sense of freshness, this sense of newness, a sense of satisfaction that it gives you right away, because here this item, this wall, this chair was not painted, and now it looks completely different. And the project is not yet complete, but you already sense of what it could be. You already see a potential. You already see what the finished product is going to look like, because that first coat of paint is already on it. Or maybe if you're not into painting things, how about this analogy? Imagine you're cooking your favorite recipe, and you start making that dish, and maybe you're making a broth for soup, and you take that first taste, and you say, this is good. It's not complete yet. It's just the beginning of the recipe. The soup is not done. Or maybe you're tasting a sauce for something that you're making, and you just taste a little bit of it, you sample it, and you say, this is going to be a really good meal. You already know what's coming. Even in its incomplete stage, your creation, that which you're making, you already see the full potential of it, and you say, this is good. I think this is what Hashem felt when he was creating the world, and he got to day 5, and he said, this is good. This is good. Then God created Adam, mankind, humanity. And of course he made male and female all at once, and he called them Tov Meod, which means very good. Not just good, but very good, or good indeed. You know, there's a well-known midrash out there, you may have heard it, that the word Adam and the word Meod is actually the same. Because if you just mix those letters around, you're going to get the same exact result. Maybe that's why Hashem said, Tov Meod. Because he wasn't just creating Adam, he wasn't just creating humanity, which made him proclaim that this was very good, but he was making humanity in his image. And that is definitely Tov Meod. Very good. Now, the celebration of Rosh Hashanah and the story of creation, they are inseparable. We have to speak of them in the same terms. And the first chapters of the Torah describe creation of the world that came to be. But a lot of people look at those chapters and they keep digging through those verses, trying to figure out how the world came to be. And I realize that there's a lot of excitement about that for people. For me, not so much, to be honest with you. For me, when I dig through those chapters, what I'm looking for a really spiritual story and trying to understand why the world came to be. It's not the how, it's the why. And during the season, during these next 10 days, these Yomim Noraim, we'll be asking that question why a lot of times. So we might as well get used to it. It's all right there in Bereshit. Now, as this year I was reading over the story in just preparation for the season, I was drawn to a moment in creation just before the mankind was made. Now, I imagine that humanity was conceived in the mind of God already, but not made. It's like the recipe exists in the mind of God, but the creation is not there just yet. Now, this is the true moment of our human Reshit, our beginning, our starting point, where God would create us in his image. And then in Genesis 2, in verse 5 and 6, Torah says that though the plants have already existed, yet they did not grow and they did not produce anything just yet. And actually, no water came upon the plants just yet because there was no Adam to work the land. That's what it says. Adam was not yet. So even though all these things exist, there's no one to manage it. Ve'adam ein la'avod et ha'adama. He wasn't there to work the Adamah, the earth. So the world was unfinished, but in that still moment, it was already good. And God was satisfied with it. Then in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, God created Adam and humanity and the garden. And of course, Adam was placed into the garden for the purpose of doing what? To work it and to guard it. That's what the Torah says. Le'avda u'le'shamra. To work it and to guard it. So here comes that completion, that next step in creation. And as soon as we humans came into the world, you know what happened next? Our entire being was defined through activity and action. Everything was kind of at standstill. And all of a sudden, as we come in, now there is somebody to do that avodah. Now there's somebody to do that shamra. Avodah and shamra, the work and the keeping of things, or the management, or administration, however you wish to translate shamra. That became our disposition. That's what we are all about. And eventually, our nature and our orientation towards activity, our drive for advancement and achievement, led us to our downfall. I'm not going to get into that right now. We'll consider our downfall before Yom Kippur. There's time. There's time for that. For now, I want to focus on the Reshit, on the beginning, on the starting point, the moment where we were in the mind of God, but not yet made. That's what I want to focus on right now, because this is kind of where we are right now, I think. We are at the very starting point of this season, of this holiday, of this celebration. Things soon will change and they will transform and things will get moving forward. But for now, everything stands still. For now, we have eternity. Everything that stood still back then, at that moment of the fifth day, everything was good and sacred and special and holy. And I think Rosh Hashanah, the very start of it, should be like that for us. I'm reminded of a story. Once upon a time, and this is not that kind of story, it's a little different story. Once upon a time, some poor Jews in a tiny shtetl out there in the country will not be named. Shtetls were all over the place. Shmuel and his friends are sitting and discussing, dreaming of riches. So Shmuel, a teacher, one of those Jews among them, he says to his friends, if I had as much money as Rothschild, I would be even richer than Rothschild. And all of his friends look at him and say, how are you going to do that, Shmuel? He says, well, because I will also teach on the side. See, this is who we are. We don't sit still. If we have as much money as Rothschild, what do? We go do something anyway. We get a job. We do something on the side. I think that is so ingrained into our humanity, into who we are as a people. Adam and Adamah, we are forever tied to working this world, this land, everything that is in front of us. Because we humans are made essentially for Avodah and Shamra. The work, the managing of all things, we really have hard time dwelling in the moment. And the very moment Rosh Hashanah arrives before us, before the taste of honey even leaves our lips, we're already thinking about Yom Kippur. This is just how we are. We're thinking about what's next. So I call for you this evening, can we slow down and celebrate this moment? Can we just be in this moment? As mentioned in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, the world was made and there was no need for work just yet. It was a moment of stillness. So let's cherish this beginning. Let's try to relive it. A moment just for what it is. And if Hashem did not command us to cease from work, we probably would never have done so. But guess what? Shabbat is a gift, and Rosh Hashanah is a gift. And it is a time to rest in Hashem. It is a time of sacred assembly when we remember the origins of the world and celebrate our part in it. But as I focused your attention on that fifth day, that is what I want us to remember more than anything right now. So before we forge into the new year and begin our work, because we can't do anything else, let's lay a foundation of stillness and rest. Can we begin with that? Let's begin afresh, but not with activity, not with busyness, but rather with inactivity for at least one day. For at least one day. Let's gather the strength. That's what this moment is for what lies ahead, for resting, and just being happy. Just being happy with the way God made us. Our work and our worries will still be there another day later. For now, let's be satisfied the way Hashem was satisfied with his work of creation, even though it wasn't quite exactly finished and completed. Yet he admired it and he was pleased. So let's stare at the first coat of paint, I say. Let's watch it dry for a little while. I know that's terrible. But my call this Rosh Hashanah is to find joy and happiness in this new beginning, in our new beginning, and to pause and not to rush into the next just right away. May your souls truly find rest. May they be still for a moment, be refreshed this Rosh Hashanah. Shana Tova.